Thank you, Ashley. Good evening, everyone. My name is LaKanya Connor, and I am a school counselor district specialist with Duval County Public Schools. After this presentation, if you have additional questions, because I know this is one of our hot topics, if you have additional questions, I would ask you to reach out to your school counselor at your school. So I am going to go ahead and start the presentation. The Florida Department of Education Office of Student Financial Assistance administers a variety of state-funded grants and scholarships to assist Florida students with the cost of their post-secondary education. Bright Futures is a state scholarship program here in Florida that is merit-based only. The Florida Lottery funded scholarship rewards students for their academic achievements during high school by providing funding for them to pursue post-secondary educational and career goals in Florida. So our agenda for this evening, we will review the Bright Futures home screen, the initial eligibility requirements for each award, the evaluation process, and award notification and review the Florida financial aid application. I've also included the Bright Futures flyer, which you will have access to if you are at one of our comprehensive high schools or one of our DCPS charter schools as well. So this is our home screen. It looks like this. Bright Futures, along with other state grant programs, can be found at this website, which is the Florida Student Financial Aids with a G.org. The Office of Student Financial Assistance will begin evaluation for the 22-23 high school seniors in February. In order for a student to qualify for Bright Futures, a student must meet the following criteria. They must complete a Florida financial aid application, also known as the FFAA, and that is the state application no later than August 31st, 2023 at that particular website. Complete the required coursework by high school graduation. Achieve the required grade point average in the required coursework. Complete the required number of community service hours or work paid hours by their graduation date, and achieve the required college entrance exam score no later than June 30th, 2023. We will review each of these later in our PowerPoint. Here you will find the Bright Future Students Handbook, Chapter 1, Initial Eligibility, where the students will spend our time. With this presentation is where we're going to spend most of our time. Chapter 2, the scholarship information applies once the student is in their post-secondary institution. It covers the length of the scholarship award amount and how to transfer the scholarship if the student decides to change schools. Chapter 3 covers the renewal requirement. So it's important for students to understand that they must maintain their GPA to continue receiving funding. The remaining two topics include additional resources, which are down to the bottom, for students and parents to reference. So here are the initial eligibility requirements. So again, this is chapter 1 in the student handbook. These are the general requirements that a student must meet in order for them to apply for the scholarship. The students must be a Florida resident and a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen as determined by the student's post-secondary institution. Complete the Florida financial aid application during their senior year of high school beginning October 1st, but no later than August 31st after high school graduation. Earn a standard Florida high school diploma or its equivalent from a Florida public school or a registered private school. Not have been found guilty of or pled nolo contendere to a felony charge, be accepted by and enrolled as a degree or certificate seeking student at an eligible Florida public or independent post-secondary institution within 5 years of high school graduation, and earned a standard Florida high school diploma or its equivalent. I want to make sure I say that again. And then enrolled in at least 6 non-remedial semester hours or the equivalent in quarter or clock hours per term. The Bright Future Scholarship Award Program. So these are the different categories that the students can apply. You will be awarded one of the following: the Florida Academic Scholar Awards, which is our FAS, the Florida Medallion Scholar Award, which is our FMS, the Florida Gold Seal CAPE Scholars, which is a GSC, or the Florida Gold Seal Vocational Scholar, which is our GSV. Florida high school students who wish to qualify for the Florida Academic Scholars, which is our FAS award, or the Florida Medallion Scholars must meet the following initial eligibility requirements. They must graduate from high school from a Florida public high school with a standard Florida high school diploma. Graduate from a registered Florida Department of Education private school, earn a GED, complete a home education program. So one of those. Complete the required high school coursework. Achieve the required minimum high school grade point average. That's the student's GPA. Achieve the required minimum score on either the ACT or the SAT college entrance exam by June 30th of their high school graduation year. Complete the required number of volunteer service or 100 paid work hours, and also submit a FFA, that is the application, no later than August 31st after high school graduation. This is new this year. Volunteer service and paid work hours. Students must complete a program of volunteer service or, beginning with a high school student graduating in the 22-23 academic year, thereafter, paid work as approved by the district board or the administrators of non-public schools. Students must earn either the required volunteer service or paid work hours, but not a combination of both. The student may identify a social or civic issue or a professional area that interests them and develop a plan for their personal involvement in addressing the issue or learning about the area. The student must, through papers or other presentation, evaluate and reflect upon their volunteer service or paid work experience. Such volunteer service or paid work may include, but is not limited to, a business or government internship, work for a nonprofit community service organization or activities on behalf of a candidate or public office. The hours of volunteer service or paid work must be documented in writing, and the document must be signed by the student, the parent, or guardian, and a representative of the organization for which the student performed the volunteer service or paid work. College entrance exams. Students must meet the scores set in statute for either the ACT or the SAT. The ACT composite score is an average of the best section scores across the 4 subject section areas from any test sitting. It includes the English, math, reading, and science composite scores ending in 0.50, and it will be rounded up to the next whole number. The SAT combined score is the sum of the best reading criteria reading, critical reading, or evidence-based reading and writing, and math section scores from any test sitting on the SAT. The SAT, ACT exams may be taken an unlimited number of times through June 30th of the high school graduation year, or through January 31st if the student is a mid-year graduate. Students will be evaluated based on an official test scores from FDOE repository to ensure that the Office of Student Financial Aid obtains official test scores. Also, the students must ensure demographics on your test registration and high school transcripts match, and also request your official single sitting test scores be sent to one of the Florida's 12 state universities when registering for the ACT or the SAT. Service and work hours. Each district school board and the administration of a non-public school must establish approved activities. The process for documentation of service or work hours and the established deadline to complete and turn in service or work hours. Total service hours completed must be reflected on a student's transcript submission to the Office of Student Financial Aid. Service and work hours must be completed no later than June 30th, 2023. Other ways for students to actually qualify is students who have demonstrated academic merit through a recognition program that may be eligible for Bright Futures without having to meet one or more of the other requirements. So these are our students that are enrolled in those special programs like National Merit Scholars, National Hispanic Recognition Programs, Advanced International Certificate of Education, and that's our ACE program or our IB program. So these are additional ways that certain schools have those particular programs, and students who meet those eligibility requirements can receive Bright Futures through this particular mechanism. Both the ACE and the IB diplomas must be earned prior to the high school graduation. Confirmations may come from ACE and IB as late as September. Please refer to the information. You can look at the table that we have here, or again, all of this information is available on our website for Florida Bright Futures. The Florida Gold Seal CAPE Scholars Award may be funded if a student is enrolled in a career education or certificate program. Upon completion of an associate in science degree program that articulates to a bachelor's of science degree, a GSC scholar may also receive an award for a maximum of 60 credit hours towards a Bachelor of Science degree program. Upon completion of an associate's in applied science program, a GSC scholar may also receive an award for a maximum of 60 credit hours towards a Bachelor of Applied Science degree program. Florida high school students who wish to qualify for the GSC award must meet the following initial eligibility requirements. Earn a minimum of 5 post-secondary credit hours through CAPE industry certifications that articulates for a college credit, and also complete the 30 volunteer service or 100 paid work hours. The Gold Seal CAPE Scholars is as following. It may be funded if enrolled in a career or educational certificate program, as well as upon completion of an associate in science degree program that articulates to a bachelor's of science degree. A Gold Seal CAPE Scholar may also receive an award for a maximum of 60 hours towards a Bachelor of Science. Upon completion of an associate's in applied science program, a Gold Seal scholar may also receive an award for a maximum of 60 credit hours towards a Bachelor of Applied Science degree program. The Gold Seal Vocational Scholars Awards may be funded if a student enrolled in a career education or certificate program. Florida high school students who wish to qualify for the Gold Seal Vocational Award must meet the following eligibility requirements. Achieve the required weighted minimum 3.0 GPA in a non-elective high school course. Take at least 3 full credits in a single career and technical education program. Achieve the required minimum 3.5 unweighted GPA in a career education course. Achieve the required minimum score on the ACT, SAT, or the Florida Post-Education Readiness Test, which is our PERT exam, and complete over 30 hours for volunteer service or 100 paid work hours. College entrance exams cannot be combined. A student must qualify based on each subtest score for a single exam type. Subtest scores from different test dates may be used to meet the test requirement. The ACT, SAT, PERT exams may be taken an unlimited number of times through June 30th of high school graduation year through January 31st for mid-year graduates. Students should request that test scores be sent to one of Florida's 12 state universities when they register for the ACT or the SAT, so that test scores will be sent to Florida Department of Education repository. PERT scores are reported on student official high school transcripts. So students, in essence, what that means is when we submit your transcript district-wide, your transcripts go through our information management system. And when they match, the state will match your ACT and your SAT scores based on the demographics that you have put when you register for ACT and SAT, that it has to be identical to what we have in focus. So make sure you have processes in place that you are putting the same information, because they do not use the test scores from our transcripts. So your ACT, SAT scores, all your scores, any testing that you've taken through us are available on your transcript. But understand, Bright Future does not read the test scores from the transcripts. They're looking at it from the state repository, in which it's like a bank of all the test scores that are done statewide. That's where they're pulling your test scores from. So it is imperative, especially seniors at this point, it makes sure that you are putting when you register for the ACT and the SAT, that you are indeed putting one of those colleges, one of the state universities, so that they will pull from there. And then also that your demographics match up for based on what's in focus. So the Gold Seal Scholars Award may only be used at post-secondary institutions that offer applied technology diploma or technical degree education programs, or the career education certificate program. So the awards and notification, evaluation and awards process goes like this. So we have two when the students are actually being, twice when students are actually being evaluated. There are 2 evaluation periods, which includes the early evaluation, which is your first, the end of the first semester, and posting will begin in March. So these are our students who applied early. They did the early, started back in October, and these students already met that eligibility requirements, and those students are being evaluated. So those are our seniors that can actually get locked into Bright Futures their first semester year of their senior, at the end of their senior year. So that's a good thing, parents, because if they get locked in, they can't take it back. So if their GPA drops, or if something happens, then they are not going to lose that scholarship. They got locked in January. So at the end of that first semester of their senior year, they're not going to lose that scholarship. So that's very important, because we understand sometimes things happen, between those months leading up to graduation. So we encourage them to apply early. There's systems and protocols in place for our school counselors to encourage those students to apply. They do it during their financial aid season. So students have the opportunity to actually apply and get locked in for Bright Futures, but they have to make sure they meet all of the eligibility requirements. And another thing is that our DCPS 24 graduation option aligns with the Bright Futures scholarship. So unless they're doing something a little bit different, or they are not taking the foreign languages, which is where that different criteria is going to come from. But we'll talk about that once I get to the actual flyers. All students whose transcripts are submitted electronically to Florida Department of Education for an official early evaluation based on academic progress in the middle of the last year of their senior year, and test scores for those tests have been taken by January 31st, will receive an eligibility or ineligibility determination with the award status notification posted to their online account. Students cannot lose the award based on early evaluation unless they fail to earn their standard Florida high school diploma from a Florida public or FDOE registered private schools. So the only way that they would lose it, if they earn it and they apply and they get that scholarship at the end of their first semester of their senior year, the only way that they will not get it is if they don't earn their high school diploma, and that's not what we're talking about. So we want to definitely make sure that the students are doing what they're supposed to do in order for them to meet the graduation requirements. Students, again, cannot lose their award based on early evaluation unless they fail to earn their high school diploma. The required coursework and GPA is through the 7th semester, which again is their first semester of their senior year. So coursework in progress for the 8th semester must be on their transcripts, meaning they're still enrolled in those 2nd semester courses. And Bright Futures can, again, evaluate based on the fact that the students are enrolled in those courses. Their hours must be turned in, not in their book bag, not at home. They must be turned in to their school counselor for verification, and then they must be submitted to your data entry clerk in order for those scores to reflect in focus. Now that they will see on the transcript. So if they have not done that, then they're not going to be eligible. They still have until the end of the year, but we encourage them to do it as early as possible. And then also the test scores for tests must be taken through January 31st for all of our mid-year students. The final evaluation is the 8th semester, which is the final year of their senior year. So students, if you're trying to keep up with what the 7th semester and 8th semester, and you've only heard of 1st and 2nd, so the way Bright Futures calculate those semesters, 9th grade is 1st, 2nd, 10th grade is 2nd and 3rd, and go on from there, okay? So your 11th grade is your 5th and 6th, and then of course your senior year is your 7th and 8th semesters. So that's how those semesters are actually calculated. All students whose final transcripts are submitted following the student's last term in high school will receive an award status notification, whether they're eligible or ineligible determination, and it will be posted to your accounts, okay? All students whose transcripts are submitted electronically to FDOE for an official early evaluation based on academic progress in the middle of the last year of high school, and their test scores are taken by January 31st, will receive that information, and it will be placed on your account. The award amounts, the FAS, the scholarship, will scholars attending a public institution will receive an award covered for 100% of their tuition and specific fees. The FMS, which is the Florida Medallion Scholar attending a public institution, will receive an award to cover 75% of institution and specific fees. So beginning in the fall of 2021, FMS students attending a Florida college system institution, 28 state or community colleges who enroll in an associate degree program will receive an award to cover 100% of the tuition and the specific fees. So I'm going to kind of break that down when you see the flyer, and it will help you all to it'll make a lot more sense for parents and students. So the award amounts, the students attending a non-public institution will receive a comparable amount as noted in the private award chart accessible through the Bright Futures Student Handbook, and you can find that in Chapter 2 on the website. And then also for the Florida Gold Seal and Gold Seal Vocational Award, students will receive the specified amount established annually by the Florida legislator in the General Appropriation Act. And again, you can visit the website to find out exactly how that breakdown of those fees are determined. So now I want to share with you, this is a flyer that is available to our students. So this may be helpful for parents, and this is an easy way to look at all the information that I presented. So parents, if you have questions as to what those criteria are, please see your school counselor. But in the meantime, would definitely suggest you can go to the website and you can see all of the information and get that background or have your questions answered as to what qualifies what in order for the students to actually meet the eligibility requirement. So here you see at the top, the application that actually opened on October the 1st is when those applications were actually available. I can tell you, parents, the steps that are required is very simple. Most students can do it on their phones. The problem with them doing it very quickly is that sometimes they do a typo. And so instead of saying my birthday is July 12th, I may say typing in, December 7th. So it's really important because if those demographics does not align, your transcript is going to receive an error message, which means now we have to go back and clean it up in order for that process for them to evaluate your transcripts correctly. So we want to make sure, take your time and fill it out, but honestly, it could take you as less as 15 minutes. It includes things like your name, date of birth, place of birth, those type of things in there. And it evaluates, again, you're being evaluated. This is a state application. It's not just Bright Futures. Bright Futures is the only one that's merit-based. Merit means students, parents. If you earn it, you will get it. You are not competing with anyone else in the state of Florida. You need to know what those qualifications are and then make the grade. Get the test scores, submit the application, and then everything else will take place. So here are your steps here. Again, you have to fill out the application online, review the requirements for the scholarship, and we're going to look at that right down to the bottom. Complete the required 16 high school course credits with the required GPA. Complete the community service or work-based hours. Then achieve the correct score that you would need on the SAT as well as the ACT, and then enrolled in a post-secondary institution. So that's basically it in a nutshell, but you just have to go through the process. If you're a parent and you have students that are in 9th through 11th grade, this is very important to you because you have the time now to evaluate and assess where your student is and making sure they're taking the appropriate courses. So here is a breakdown. This is an easy way, and all of your school counselors have access to this, and all seniors should have received this, and this flyer should be available in your school counseling office. So here you see the Florida Academic Scholar. The GPA requirement, here are those criteria. You have to have a 3.5 GPA. Here are the courses. You have to have that 3.5 that's going to be evaluated. You have to have 4 English, 4 math, 3 sciences, 3 social studies, and then also the world language. You have to have 2 of the same. So here, parents, students, here as well as a school counselor, it's important, parents, that we start talking to these students of what those eligibility courses are. A lot of times we get our students in the 11th and 12th grade, and sometimes they're coming into us in the 9th grade and they've already taken English or math. Most cases it's the foreign languages, science classes, and math classes that they already had. So what happens, they get to their 11th and 12th grade year and they find, oh, well, I only need 4, but they've already taken 4. And then we try to say, okay, we encourage you to keep that academic course going on, because if you're going to a post-secondary institution, you're going to a college or university, you don't want to go and major in engineering and you haven't had math since 11th, 10th, or 11th grade. So again, when you're taking these courses, remember, they're going to evaluate, for example, 4 math classes. So it just has to be Algebra 1 or above. So you may have not done well in geometry, but you take a different math or an additional math. Bright Futures is looking for four different math classes that they're going to evaluate. The same, and remember, this is an overall GPA. So you may be stronger in social studies as opposed to math. So you get all A's in social studies, but then in math, you may have a C here or B here or what have you. It still doesn't mean you're not eligible. You can still, they're looking for that overall GPA that includes those courses right here. Here, your social studies, especially your social studies and your science classes, because the requirement is 3. So if you're only taking 1 per year, then you're going to have some additional courses where you have the opportunity to take additional social studies or science classes. So again, they're looking for those 3. So the more you take in those academic classes when you don't do so well, if you need this money, which can make a difference between you going to FSCJ or FSU, living on campus or not living on campus. You just want to make sure you have that opportunity and the money is there. It's better that you qualify, you apply, you get the money, it's there, and you don't use it because of other opportunities, then you sitting in class, wish you would have, thought you did, and you didn't, and the money is no longer there. So I would encourage parents, again, a lot of times we have our students who have a solid academic plan and they are not planning to go to a Florida university or a college. They have had it in the back of their head. They're going to Clemson, they're going to Oklahoma, they're going wherever these other colleges are. But then they get there and things happen. Something can happen in their family here, where they have to make that change and come back. It could be something as simple as they get to one of these places in Virginia or Pennsylvania, New York. It's too cold, it's too hot. I don't like my roommate. They come back home. If they apply, this money will still be available for them within a certain time frame. So we encourage a lot of them to apply. Believe it or not, we have students that do qualify but won't apply for it because they made up in their mind they're not going to use it. So that's why we encourage all students who it is coming close to eligibility to apply. Okay, so also with the FAS, you see right here what those qualifying scores are. So for this year's students, if you are a senior, current seniors, this is the graduation requirements for as the assessments that you would need. This is the assessment requirement that you would need in order to be Bright Future eligible. So that's a 29 on the ACT and then a 1330 on the SAT. Now, unlike the Gold Seal, the ACT and the SAT, they can't interchange your scores, meaning the more you take it, Bright Futures is going to look for the higher score. So with your ACT and your SAT, it's broken down into subject areas. So you may take the test 5 times, and they're going to look at which higher score did you get in each area in order to determine that 29 or that 1330. Then over here, you have your criteria for your community service hours. Remember, it's 100 community service hours here for FAS, regardless. It's 100 community service hours or it's 100 work-based hours. Each of the category, all of the community service hours are 100. The work-based hours is 100. You have to have 100 work-based hours in order for the students to qualify. When you're looking over here and you're comparing the FAS and the FMS, remember the FAS, it is a higher GPA. You can see the difference between the two. The course requirements are the same. The ACT, SAT, the test scores are different. And then, of course, the coverage, what the amount of the dollar that's received, that students will be awarded is different. Okay? But then, of course, you have that little disclaimer right here at the bottom with the FMS, so the students, if they meet that criteria, they can get that 100% tuition. Okay? So students, you have to remember GPA, course requirement, test scores, community service, or work-based hours. That is what you're looking for. All right, so then on the back, it has that gold seal. Florida does recognize that not all of our students are going to want to do academics. So we're seeing an increase in career jobs, career fields, where our students are graduating from college and then going straight into the workforce or going into some particular trade or certification program. So these are the criteria again for those particular awards and how those students are meeting the will need to meet in order for them to receive that particular award. Down to the bottom, you have those other ways to qualify. And then, of course, the award amounts that are here that is currently for this year's seniors. So mom, dad, if you have students that are here or are upcoming students that are in the 9th through 11th grade, it is imperative that you go back and revisit because this will update as state legislative give us those updates. Then we have to adhere by whatever guidelines those are for the students that are in the current year. So I can tell you most of the information that's here as far as the eligibility and applying, that applies to our current seniors. You cannot apply until your senior years. Students that are in 9th through 11th grade, what's important for you to know is that you need to know what those eligibility requirements are. Making sure you make the grade, making sure that you're looking at your evaluation reports. Those should be provided by your school counselors. So ask them if you have not received it. Say, can I get a copy of my evaluation report from Bright Futures? Because you need to know if because your report card, your academic histories, or your transcript reflect that you have a 3.5, you need to know what your GPA is in these classes only, because that's what Bright Futures is looking for. So if you get that evaluation report, it's going to tell you what you have by each of the categories, what you need, and then your current GPA. And that it's going to have your test scores on there as well. Okay? So I am going to open it up for questions. I know that was a lot of information. Again, I would encourage you to go to our website, go to the state website, and you will get everything I just said is outlined right there. But if there are specifics, I would encourage you to speak with your school counselor, and they will be able to assist you and answer any questions that you may have. Which awards applies to a student that participated in the dual enrollment program? So that would it depends on what dual enrollment courses did you take, because our dual enrollment courses are aligned with our graduation requirements. So you're either in a career program or you're in an academic program or a little bit of both. What Bright Futures, again, if you took, they're looking for 4 English courses. So let's just use that as an example. So if you're taking 4 English, so whether you're taking English 1 or dual enrollment, ENC 1101 is still an English course. So if you go to the Bright Futures website, there is a course code table on there, and it will give you the equivalency of those courses that you're asking for. Okay, next question. If I take the SAT or the ACT and get the FMS scholarship, can I take it again and get? Yes, ma'am. I'm glad you said that. You can definitely do that. So you can't go, they can't take it away from you, but yes, you can be reevaluated. Remember, students, you're only going to receive one, and they're going to give you the one that pays the most. So if you're looking at your Florida academic or your medallion, the FAS is what pays the most. So if you get that score, yes, you will be awarded that dollar amount. Does ASL 2 years count for the language requirement? Yes, it does. I would tell you to definitely look at whatever post-secondary institution that you plan to attend, and just to find out, just to make sure that that course is being, that is an acceptable course. Those of you who may be planning to go out of state, particularly, please check the language requirement and make sure that ASL is an acceptable course for that particular program. My daughter took Spanish 1 in the 8th grade and Spanish 2 in the 9th grade. Does that count as 2 years for Bright Futures? As long as both of those courses are 9th grade courses. Sometimes parents, our kids take some of those courses and they are not course coded as a 9th grade course. So as long as it doesn't have an MJ beside it, then she should be fine. So check her academic history or tell her to speak with her school counselor. I would say, because she's in Spanish 2, that course is recognized, the Spanish 1 is recognized as a 9th grade course. It's probably safe to say, but double check. Okay, do they take the best of 3 science grades or do they average the 4 science grades? If you take 4 sciences, I wasn't understanding which. Okay, so what I mean by that, Bright Futures is looking for 4 science classes. I'm sorry, 3 science classes in order for them to evaluate. So let's say you take earth space science or environmental science 9th grade. 10th grade, you take biology. 11th grade, you take chemistry. If that's all you take, that's what they're going to evaluate. So if you go ahead and take anatomy and physiology, marine science, physics, they're going to take the best of 3. Okay? So keep that in mind. It'll be the best of 3 sciences. They're looking for science, 3 sciences though. So when we tell you, why don't you take this class instead of that class, and you want gym, and you haven't looked at that Bright Futures evaluation report, then it can make the difference between you qualifying and not qualifying, because you may have not done that well in, maybe biology just wasn't your thing. Some students are academically better in other areas than in other subject areas. How old does a student need to be to start logging community service hours? So student community service hours, for community service hours can start after their 8th grade year. So the summer leading up to their 9th grade years, when we can start documenting those community service hours. Please, parents, if you have not spoken to a school counselor, speak with the school counselor before engaging a student in certain activities, because we don't want them to do all of that work and then they turn it in a year, 2 years later, and then we find out that it doesn't meet the eligibility requirements. So I would encourage you to definitely speak with your school counselor to find out whether or not that meets the eligibility before engaging a student in a long-term community service hours project. Also, the work-based hours were based on the first year of this. That was a change. So the governor signed off on that in July. We got the instructions probably around August or September. So work-based hours are based on the first day of school. So that's a new process now. So, and those hours should be documented on 2 different forms. So you should have a work-based hours, volunteer hours, work-based hours sheet, and then you should also have a community service hour sheet. So see your school counselor. They should have those forms that are available to you in the schools. But again, the work-based hours are effective. That was a new change this year. So we're not going all the way back to a student who was working since 9th grade. We're only going back effective August, the first day of school of this year. Okay, is working at Publix considered work hours? Yes. And you can find the guidelines for our community service hours and work-based hours as a district on the district website under school counseling, and it's under community service hours. Okay, she said, my son is working at Publix. How does he start? I'm not sure what that question is. How does he start? What? So I'm not sure. So I would need more information regarding that question. Can you clarify how to get 100% paid through Community Florida Medallion Scholarship? Okay, so if you go to your school counselor, I'm not sure how many questions I have after that. Yeah, that one is a little bit more in depth. So I will refer you, Nancy, if you can speak with your school counselor, or you can go to the Bright Futures website, and it gives you an explanation on how that breakdown is. That one is a little bit more intense because initially the students are awarded the 75%, and then it could potentially turn into the 100% for students who are enrolling. So basically, if the student enrolls into a college, university, and they're in a program, a degree-seeking program, they can get the 100% towards tuition. So, but look for specific guidelines either on the website or speak with your school counselor. Are you welcome, Kelly? Let's see. I've contacted the counselor and they never know any information about Bright Future. What school is that? Don't write it in the chat. Just stay afterwards, and I will definitely make sure that they have that information, Miss Catherine. If I have, or you can send me a personal message, and that way I can address it with the school counselors with your child's name, and I'll have someone to reach out to you. Okay, if you have Bright Futures and Florida Prepaid, how do they work together? Good question, Julius. So what happens, I found this out from a personal experience because my students, my children personally receive both. So we did the Bright Futures and then we also had the college prepaid. So it works differently from university. So that's really a question from the university. I can tell you as a parent that what you end up getting from the school is an itemized bill. And parents, they will give you the bill. They won't tell you what the grades are that the kids are receiving unless you sign that FERPA form. However, you will get the bill. They share that with you. Just a little hint for you all. But they gave me an itemized bill, and the bill contained all of these fees, excessive fees that you would think that you wouldn't need to know about, but they are anything from transportation to books to lab to medical to tuition. Everything is on there. So then they'll give you a breakdown. So they generally apply it they use the Bright Futures and apply towards the tuition, and then the other one will just pay whatever else is left over. So they don't give you the money back is generally what happens. They'll just show you how they applied that other money that was in addition to tuition and fees that they could utilize. But check with the institution because they may do it differently. I can tell you what FAU and Florida State is how they did the bills that I received. But they will take both, so you don't have to worry about that. So what is Florida Prepaid? Okay, Florida Prepaid is something that you pay into. So it's basically an investment fund that you actually pay into with the state of Florida with your students. You can get locked in on those particular current state fees. If say your kid is in kindergarten and you want to start an investment plan or housing plan or food plan, there are different plans that they have. It's available on the state website. And you could determine which one you want to pay into. The key is, I think it's Aria. The key is you get locked into what the current rate is. So the earlier you start, the better. So if you have a kindergarten, they're going to charge you. You're going to pay into this plan for however long you decide to, but it is usually up until the child graduates. You can pay into that plan, but you get locked in at the rates that are there currently. So when that child reaches 18, here's the plan. You've already saved the money. So it's like a 50, I think a 501. Somebody can help me. I think that's what it is. So that's it. It's just puts you on that savings plan. So it's a savings and educational plan is basically what it is. Let's see. In order to be eligible for the Bright Future Scholarship, is it necessarily, yes, citizenship. Citizenship is based on the institution. So that is a criteria that the students have to have that. And I would encourage you to reach out to where the student plans to attend to see how they define citizenship, because it can be different, a little different, but we don't make that determination. So we always encourage post-secondary for families to reach out to those post-secondary institutions. It's the same thing like if a student is determined whether or not they are what's the word they're looking if it's an independent student or if they're a dependent student, they have as a criteria. We don't make that, so we encourage you to reach out to post-secondary institutions to answer those questions. Okay, question. What is the best methodology to calculate the weighted GPA academically excluding? You would need to speak with either your school counselor or have your school counselors to explain to your student how to calculate a GPA. They have that information. A lot of them have tools where they can give that to the students, but they can also pull the students' evaluation report of Bright Futures, and it's already there. So that information can be found on their evaluation report. Especially the older the student, the more, you have a good accuracy of what that GPA will look like towards the end of Bright Futures. But then the younger the student is best, because now you can kind of, you know what you need to do to clean it up. So if students are just finding out about Bright Futures 11th and 12th grade year, that is a problem, because now if you're not eligible, you don't have enough time to try to clean it up. The earlier you know what the criteria is, the better it is for you to prepare and make the necessary adjustments in order for you to meet the eligibility. Again, it can make the difference between you going to FSU or Florida State, staying on campus, off campus, buying a car, taking the bus. Again, this is just opportunities for you all. How many math classes do we have to take? 4. Is 4 required for graduation? So you can just take Algebra 1 on up, and then you're safe. But you need to make sure you do your best in all of those classes, because they're going to evaluate 4. So if you have 4 and you have 3 of them C's and then 1 is a B, then you're going to have to do something else with your other academic core classes in order for you to meet that criteria. So it's a lot of manipulating, but Bright Futures is going to do what's in the best interest of the student. But you have to make the grade and be in the courses. So you finding out about it your 11th and 12th grade year, and you already at a 2.5 GPA, it's a lot of work to do in 2 years. You're going to have enough pressure on you about other things, having fun, going to the prom. And then you start thinking about post-secondary, then it's just going to be an additional weight for students to have to manipulate. And it's not a bad thing. It's just more. Okay. Is Russian language a world language eligible for Bright Futures? I believe it is. I don't want to say 100%. It's usually 2 of the same foreign language. But again, go to the course code directory for Bright Futures, and it lists all of the courses that are needed in all of the eligible courses that are that will be evaluated for Bright Futures. My son is working at Cinemark. Would that also be counted as work hours? Anything where a student can produce a pay stub and that employee is going to sign off on it is going to count as a work-based hours. So they just need to find out what that process is. Again, you can go to DCPS website, go into departments, go to school counseling, and on the left-hand side, go all the way down to community service hours. You will see our guidelines. Our schools mimic that same guideline. Work-based hours are new this year, but this is the process that we put in place in accordance with state guidelines. It's her mom. Thank you so much, Ms. Oh, thank you, Ms. Ariel. Okay, so I think it's too late for Florida prepaid. What grade is she in? I can tell you from a personal perspective that I didn't do Florida prepaid for my daughter because we had just moved here until her 11th grade year. So yes, the payments were like a car payment, but it was worth it. So you think about it like that, what you're gonna save in the end, and the earlier you do it, the better. I can tell you that. So no, it's not too late, but the more you're gonna pay into it. That is what I would say. Am I able to get the work form from my son's counselor? Yes. Do we have to have the FAFSA account to get the Florida Bright Futures? Yes, that is a part of it. That's the case for most of our schools. They're going to ask you in order for you to be evaluated. And when I say school, I mean your post-secondary institutions are going to want that form filled out. So I will tell you to check with them, because we can process it without it. So whether or not they're going to say, because they want to evaluate you for additional financial aid opportunities, whether or not, you can get housing or what have you, then they're going to require you to fill out the FAFSA form. That GPA requirement, someone is asking how much GPA required for Bright Futures and what grade can be applied for it. I would refer you back to the flyer for Bright Futures that I shared with you all. You can go to your school counselor and get that, or you can visit the website, because the GPA that's required is going to depend on which level that you're actually applying for. Is there a specific form to track volunteer hours? Yes, Kelly, it is. So make sure you check with your school counselor. They should have that available for you. Okay, so that concludes all of the information that I have regarding Bright Futures. So I would say again, I am at the district office. I would encourage you to definitely speak to your school counselors who has the same information regarding Bright Futures. Parents, if you have kids that are in those grades 9th through 11th grade, please make sure that you are evaluating their progress throughout those years so that when it comes to their senior year, they're just applying, taking the exams, the ACT and the SAT, and at that point, they're just applying and making sure that everything lines up and the money is available for them. The earlier they look and start seeing what those requirements are, the more advanced they have because now they know exactly what they need to do to obtain that scholarship. Students, even if you're planning to go out of state, out of country, if you qualify, apply. Things happen and you're going to with that money and it's not going to be available. It will sit and wait on you for a period of time as long as you apply. So please, I would encourage you to apply. See your school counselors. Those of you who have not, whomever had that question saying that they having a hard time getting in touch with the school counselors or not aware, please definitely let me know who they are and is who that school is. Just stay after, and I'll make sure someone gets in contact with you. So again, thank you all. Lots of information, but the more you know, the more you can tweak. So I appreciate it.